Today we're going to be doing the last part of the snap-in cover system. Last time we did the fitted snap-in soaker. The time before that we did the insert pocket, the insert sleeve, which can fit any insert and you just fold it up inside and snap it to the cover. And today we're going to make the cover. We can do the fitted, that's the standalone fitted, next time if we want, or if you guys have any ideas I can do something different since that will mark the end of cloth diapering month. But for now, we're just going to start on the cover system. I did my flip cover tutorial yesterday, and this is the same style as that, just a different pattern. So that was why I released that one at the same time, because I figured show that, it's easier to go along with this and not have to explain everything. I tend to just cut in my template to make my marks with my rotary cutter through my fabric when I do these pieces, but you can print up the template twice and then take out the individual pieces. That works as well. I've got my different colors of pull, mostly because I was running out of dark blue pull and I still had to use it for something. But I've got my outer piece prepared, got my 4 inside snaps at the back so that they will snap to the fitted soaker. So these 4 snaps, once it's all put together, will fit into these right here when it's all inside. So that's how it fits inside that cover. And on the front there's 2, and those fit into those 2 that are beneath the Velcro. The outside is just pretty standard. It's got the 3x3 rise, and this is where we're going to do our elastic casings, just like we did on the flip tutorial that I posted last night. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare our pocket pieces, and we already prepared this piece. So you take your back flap cover, the outside, and I'm using 2 different colors of pull, which is pretty funny. And you can use your template or you can just kind of eyeball it, but if you're going to use the template, I've used a hole punch to sort of mark those spots where the center of the Velcro is going to be, and I can just use some washable or some permanent, it doesn't matter because it's covered with Velcro, to mark where my laundry tabs are going to be. And laundry tabs are important because you need to hold down Velcro in the wash or else it will snag everything. So the laundry tabs are there to affix to your wing tabs to make sure that they don't catch on to other things in the laundry. Super important job. And if anybody wants me to sew something else, let me know, or if you have any troubleshooting that you want to ask questions about, that's great. I'm happy to do all those things. So just try to center it on that. I tend to lower it a little bit just to make sure that there's easy room for turning and whatnot, but it's pretty close. You can glue it down or just hold it down and just straight stitch it on. And I just sew right up against the edge and around that laundry tab. I like to start Velcro with my hands, especially when working with sticky fabrics or thick things like Velcro. And just go really slow. Just in case your pole might get caught on your feed dogs. If you have any basic sewing questions, I'm happy to answer those too, or if you have any suggestions for what you want to see done next month. I've got a few ideas, but it won't fill up the whole month, so totally happy to do something by request, within reason. Thinking I might do something like plushies and dolls and such in March. That might be an interesting idea. I've definitely made my share of plushie and toy type things before. I'd stick to the kind of family-oriented theme. But I'm also happy to do like cosplay things or theater things, household things, beachwear, garments in general, underwear. We can do underwear. That would be interesting. I don't think that'd fill a whole month, but it would be something. Hi, Carissa. Do you have any questions? Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any requests? Otherwise, I'm just sewing on camera, and that's kind of boring. I wonder what a Twitch stream of me would be like, just like sitting here sewing. Like, totally. I've seen people doing like painting and pottery on Twitch. I wonder if it would fall under the subcategory. I mean, I guess it would. It's kind of an art. But I mean, like, does anybody really tune in to watch somebody throw pottery on a pottery wheel? I guess they might. It's kind of like an art lesson, but you're just observing. You can't really type back or anything. It's hard to watch when you're doing something really intensive like art. I use the same needle as I sew everything else. I think that so the only thing I can think of is that there might be too much tension, that you might be pulling on your needle. So the only reason why a needle would break is if you're tugging on it and it's pulling, especially if it's not fully down. When you do that, if the foot's not fully down yet, you'll be bending and pulling your needle. I use pretty small needles. My needles are usually 70-10. I occasionally will use an 80-12 if I'm out of 70-10s. I use the same needle for my elastics as I use for the pull, which is the small gauge Microtex Sharp, or if you have a ballpoint, that would work as well. I like the Microtex Sharps. But I've never had a problem with it breaking my elastics. So the only thing I can think of is if it's very thick right there, or if you're pulling against it. So like, I know when you're working with fold over elastic, you have to pull from the back and the front. And with elastics, I tend to push all my bunching toward the side away from where I'm sewing. I don't pull tension on it when I'm sewing that first side down. It's just relaxed, and that shouldn't break anything. And then the second side, it's not pulled taut either, because I'm shoving my fabric like down to the side and then leaving that part without tension. So I kind of pinch it with my left hand, and then I just sew, and there's no tension on that needle. But the reason why a needle would break or bend or seem like it's not catching thread below it would be if the needle's bending. And that's really the only reason I can think of that would happen. Unless you're sewing through a lot of layers. If you're doing something like sewing through a really thick shell and an elastic, maybe. But if you're working with a pull diaper and it's only the one layer on the inside and the one layer on the outside, then that shouldn't happen. Are you working with a fitted or with a pull diaper? Another thing that could cause your needle to break is if your bobbin thread is getting bound up underneath. If you're getting a bunch of like little rat's nests on the bottom of your like where your feed dogs are, and that can be a sign of your bobbin casing, your bobbin housing being dirty. I had that happen not too long ago. It wasn't breaking my needles, but things were getting stuck and I knew not to pull. And what you do for that is you just take out your bobbin housing and you get some spray air and you just spray it out and then put it all back together again. Oh yeah, 68 might be pretty small. I've never done smaller than the 7-10 for the Microtex. I've done the what is it, 65-9 with the ballpoints before, and that's you know, a challenge. So yeah, I think that you can go as high as really 11 and not really worry about it, especially if you're doing a double pull outer. Why do you are you doing embroidery? Why do you have a double pull outer? But yeah, if you're getting rat's nests, that's always a sign of a dirty bobbin housing. Well, not always, but often. Either a bent needle or a dirty housing. Like if changing the needle doesn't work, then it's probably the housing. But yeah, that's a very thin needle. I've never used that thin of a needle before. Wouldn't know if that'd be an issue. I imagine a thinner needle would bend more easily and then thus cause that problem more easily. But there shouldn't be tension on the needle, so it's sort of challenging to troubleshoot that without seeing it. Yeah, I don't put the pull all the way to the edges when I do the front panel under the snaps. Here, you can see it here. It's not all the way to the edge. I have it, you know, just inset so that, you know, it might be sewing through the layers, but when you get to the elastic, it's only the two. So I don't ever have my front panel fully go to the edges. I have it go to the edges minus that sort of little bit in from even the seam allowance. But it's 2 layers of pull still shouldn't do that. So there I've got my little back with my wash tabs done. And my front doesn't need to have anything done. And then just like in the flips cover, we're just going to sew those elastic casing channels down. Super fun stuff. For these, I'm going to fold it not just this part that's notched in, but including the seam allowance as well. So it's like it'll end up covering that little border there. And just go slow since the curve, you know, it's a smaller curve meeting a bigger curve and it's going to be a little bit temperamental. You can left justify your needle and use your foot as a guide, or you can keep it centered for a little more stability. If you keep it left justified, it is more likely to bend your needle and not connect as well if your timing is a little off on your machine. But if you keep an eye on it, it should be fine. I go really slow when I do these covers, just because of this kind of funky curve here. Especially since I'm not in practice. I haven't done these in years. And I just use the side of my foot to sort of guide my width of my elastic there. Just bend it as I go. And there's my single layer pull elastic casing channel. If you wanted to do a really, really basic cover, you could always just do Velcro across the front for a sized cover, and then elastic casing channel, and then one at the back, and then just fold over your edges to have more snap durability. So you really could just do like a one layer cover and just fold in your edges when you're done and then have it just be all, cased on the sides and wipeable in the middle. Especially with sized covers, it would be really, really easy to do that. Maybe I should just do a quick little tutorial on that because it would be like one layer, some Velcro, and just like casings in a folded in edge. It would be really easy. It would, maybe not be as pretty, but if you don't have fold over elastic, it's definitely an option. I've done wool covers like that before, where I had like a thick wool fabric and I just did elastics and wool, and I just did a single layer pattern with like just a doubler down the middle, but the whole rest of the body was just folded in. Now, for anybody new joining, if you have any questions or you have any things that you want me to sew next month, or any questions on the existing things, or just any troubleshooting on a project you're working on at home, just let me know. I'll be looking up occasionally and reading questions so I can answer them. But right now I'm just sewing the sort of flip style cover of my little snap-in all-in-two system that I've been working on for all the live streams. Here, I'll put the other pieces over here so that you can see them while I'm working. This is the fitted snap-in piece, and this is the insert sleeve snap-in piece. And I can just set those there so they're in sight. And right now I'm just sewing the elastic casing channels for the cover. Speaking of bent needles, let's see if that's the needle or something else. What appropriate timing. Oh, that fixed it. Okay, wasn't bent, just needed more support. Or maybe it was only a little bit bent. So now you've got your side elastic casing channels done. Or you could do something like, a Katrina cover that's stretchy enough that the kid can pull them on and off like underwear, but then has an absorbent pad sewn into it. but I don't have any way of testing sizes anymore or anything like that. And the only reason that I had the trainers on my blog was just to show a way to make the elastic stretchy on the hips. But you don't really need it. Like, honestly, the whole like feeling wet and just telling them, reminding them over and over again works really well. Especially if you start young. Don't wait till they're 3 or 4. Like when they're like 1, they understand you even if they can't control it yet. So you just have to talk about it with them. Like both of my kids wet at night until I had what I called the pee dreams talk with them. And I literally sat down with them and I said, you know how you have nightmares and we say they're not real? Well, if you have to pee in your dream, you really have to pee. So get up and go to the bathroom. And as soon as I told them both that, they were like 95% nighttime potty trained. I mean, it was almost instant. And everybody that I've told that to has been like, oh, I've never explained that to my kids. It's just a concept more than anything. It's if you have to pee in your dream, that's the one time when the dream is real. And even if it's not, it doesn't hurt to try. But it usually is. So 3-step zigzag, fairly wide. Only a tiny bit of tension. Just fold it over the edge there. Pre-fold it a little bit. Another thing is just to use those training underwear they're like basically padded underwear and just put them on under fleece and just have the kid wear fleece and training underwear for a while. Like fleece shorties or fleece soakers, because then they can pull those up and on themselves, you know, potentially. Although I don't know if my son had that kind of dexterity at that age, honestly. My daughter did. But my son's autistic, so. But he still potty trained it too. And at this point, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of tension on this, not very much at all. So there's a little bit of gather in the middle of the back there. Do the same at the front. Probably not as much gather at the front. But this is totally optional. I didn't do this in the original style. I might have done the fold over. I'm not sure. I don't really remember anymore. It has been a long time. So yeah, if any of you are modern cloth diapers, tell me what's available now that wasn't available 10 years ago, because I have no concept of it. I haven't seen what's changed in that time. I'm sure there's better patterns out there now, better retail diapers. What's available these days? What's different? You think there has to be some innovators out there? We can even do drawing or other kinds of art as well, or knitting. We could do knitting lessons. That might be fun. I don't knit in a normal way though. I do weird things, so that might be bad actually. Like the stitch ends up being right, but I don't hold my hands the way that everybody else does. I have some nerve damage in one of my fingers, and I think that it changes a lot of the way I do things. But it works. We could just talk about like different fabrics and you know, what they look like, what their composition is like, how to recognize them. So let's fold it out well and lower your foot. If you'll notice, I often start by hand rotating my wheel just to get a good feel for where I am on my fabric, and then I start using my pedal after that. It's just a precision thing for me. It's definitely not necessary, but it just kind of helps me feel like I've got my bearings. Plus, then I feel I can always sew in a power outage. And then just round out your corners so it's easier to turn. Do the same thing at the back. Hi Melissa, do you have any questions or suggestions or anything you need to troubleshoot? More ideas for non-diaper related stuff? I kind of wonder if like sewing lessons at a certain time, like twice a week or once a week on Twitch, would actually be something somebody would even want to do. Be entertaining at least. Oh no, I'm not a collector. I used to teach, well, before COVID, I taught free sewing lessons to my community. So I gathered a couple extras for things like that. Actually, now I only have one extra regular sewing machine, and it's just this little mini one that's back there in the corner. It's one that we found for $9.99 at Goodwill, and I went over to the electronics section and I plugged it in to make sure it worked. And I got that when my kids were about 7 and 5 or something like that. And I taught my son with it when he was 7. And my daughter never really wanted to learn. And then I have an embroidery machine, which was a gift from my husband that I used a little bit when my kids were little. We did some embroidering. We went to Disneyland once and we did some embroidering for that. And we did some embroidered diapers just for fun. And I didn't really use it much though. And we did some stuff with my husband's company logo. That was kind of funny. We did a little plushie that had their logo on it. And we did a jacket when they started a new company for like the VCs, so it looked all professional. Like it looked like it was like a professionally made embroidered jacket. That was kind of fun. But no, I'm not a collector. I don't have the space to be a collector. I have this basement room and that's it. And this is the guest room too. Like there's a queen bed in here and I have all my yarn, all my fabric, all my notions, and my machines in here. So I do have a cover stitch machine that I haven't even opened that my husband gave me. He got it on Craigslist. A really great deal. And I'm so intimidated by it. And I know I shouldn't be, but I totally am. So I still have my basic like cheapo serger. But I do have a nice cover stitch machine that someday maybe I'll break out and make him not mad that I never used it. But if you can tell, I have like the most basic machines. Like I have like there's nothing computerized about this machine. It's just the basic manual. It's the old Kenmore, but now it's got the different branding. And I got this because I borrowed my friend's old Kenmore, and it was so great. And I loved the vertical bobbin. And I was like, why did I have this crappy drop-in bobbin that they a drop-in bobbin, which I hated. So I got the machine that was the closest to it, and then I found it actually was just a rebranded, the same machine, just rebranded as a Genome or Genome or however they pronounce it. So that's pretty funny. But no, I mean, it would be cool. It would be cool to have like maybe when my kids are older, have like a room that has like a treadle machine or something like that. That'd be cool. But when I was a teenager, I worked in a sew and back and taught the sewing lessons to the people who bought new machines. And like went and like threaded all the sergers every morning and did like the little sample swatches that they put next to everything. So that's my background. My cover stitch is I think it's a baby lock. I think it's gosh, what is it? It's really old. It's not made anymore. The one that it is, there's something that's like the equivalent of it, but it's not it. And it's I mean, it was used, right? It was some guy whose wife had passed away, and he was selling her old sewing stuff. So, but it's not even made anymore. But I think it's a baby lock, and it's got room for 8 serger cones. It's so scary. It does like every kind of stitch except for like 1 or 2 that the newer ones do. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's easy. I'm sure if I just got it out, it would be amazing. I'm just so intimidated. I didn't even own my own sewing machine until like I had kids, so because I never had space. Like, I mean, I rented places and I always had one room because I had roommates, and I used to have my sewing machine when I first got a sewing machine tucked like behind the door to my bedroom. I hand sewed a lot of things back then. So now we're turning it just like in the tutorial from yesterday. And then we're going to do the back elastic casing and then just top stitching. It's just like the flip cover, just a different pattern. It's just, you know, my own modification on it with my square tab style. And with the extra snaps for snapping into the fitted insert and stuff. I was never scared of my serger because it's like not intimidating. It's so simple. It was less than $200 when I got it, and I think it still is. And it was like recommended by people, and all I had to do was thread it, and I already knew how to thread them because I'd done that on a lot more complicated machines when I was a teenager. Like some of the stuff we had in the store I worked at were more like that 8-stitch one, 8-cone one, but nothing I've ever owned. And it's been a long time. That's been probably almost 30 years since I worked there. So, because I'm old. I remember when I was on the various sewing boards when my kids were really little, and people would talk about like hiding their fabric from their husbands and not letting them know that they were buying stuff, diapers or whatever. And I was thinking, here I am with my husband, like supporting it, like trying to make me have a more fun hobby. So he's really great, but I'm just scared. And it's not even that I'm scared; it's that I'm intimidated, right? I mean, it just looks so crazy fancy. And I feel like if I got it out, then I feel like I would have to really utilize it, kind of like with that embroidery machine. Like I never really utilized it. I never really got the the bang for the buck out of that thing. It was never something that I really used. Most of the stuff that I sew isn't the detail-oriented stuff. Like I'm one of these like easiest, fastest is best, sewists. So all the patterns that I come up with that I actually use, like my kids' clothes and stuff, are always like the absolute easiest way to make something look good on the outside, but it might look horrendous on the inside. As long as it's durable and it can hold up in the wash, it's all good. One thing I haven't tried yet is making bathing suits, but I figure I can make like underwear and sports bras and stuff, so I imagine it shouldn't be that much different. Different elastic, I guess, and, you know, lycra instead of other knits, but I don't think it should be an issue. And now they have that like UV resistant fabric, that UV coated, you know, UV resistant treated or whatever. That's kind of a cool thing. You can make like a swim shirt and have it be like protective. So what other projects are any of you guys working on besides the diapers? Or is everybody on right now only here because of the diapers? I think I have 8 or 9 more videos planned for Cloth Diaper Month. And then we'll switch into the next, we'll transition into the next topic. So I'll have the 2 playlists with the different cloth diapering styles, the pull diapers and then the fitteds before that, fitteds and accessories. Maybe I should do a fleece in too, just so people see that as an option. Okay. Let's do our paste elastics. Right about there. And so this would be a good time for people to ask me about elastic casings if they have any questions, because I'm about to feed my elastic. So I know that that's one of those things that's kind of tricky concept, but I just know that when I had gotten some homemade diapers, sometimes the elastics were too tight, or sometimes they were too loose. You know, when they followed the pattern they were using exactly, like it might have been a half the length of the elastic, you know, requirement, and they did that, and it was still too loose or it was too tight. And that's because no 2 elastics are the same. They're not the same stretchiness. If you take two different brands of elastic, you cut them both to the same length and you stretch them, some of them stretch out further than others. And some of them relax faster, and you end up with a relaxed diaper very quickly. So instead of doing that method, I just figured you should do it by feel. So like if it's tight here, you know, you don't want it to be that you don't want it to be tight. You don't want it to be hard to stretch out. So you get to a point where it's relaxed, but it's still got a good stretch. It's not here, which is like 2 inches longer than that. It's like a little less, you know? It's got a good stretch. It goes all the way in, goes all the way out. Isn't barely anything, but also isn't so hard to pull tight. You don't want to leave marks on baby's legs. You don't want cutting off circulation. Even if it does stretch that far, like with force, you don't want it to have to take force. You want it to be something that's, you know, relaxed and holds but doesn't strain. And so it really is a feel. And so I do it one side for the feel, and then I just measure against, you know, that side with the other. And that's been a good method for me. But it is hard to sort of translate that. But it works great. You know, if you can get that nice medium point, it's good every time. Because you can change what elastic you're using and it's still going to work. You know, whether or not it's, you know, stretchier or less stretchy elastic. And also the same thing with always pushing your bodkin or your safety pin against the top side of the pull side and having the seam allowance end up on the underside. That will always give you a nice flat, even elastic, and you won't get that twisted look or that bunched look in your elastic because it's laying nice and flat above the inside. It also won't wear as easily. Like I've seen some fitteds where it's really worn on the edges and you can almost see the elastic through it, and that's because they didn't do that. Yeah, that's kind of like me. I started sewing in the 2nd grade, I think. And then, you know, did little things here and there when I was a kid. I also started knitting, I think, in the 4th or 5th grade. But I didn't really do it through college. I didn't have an opportunity to do it through college. But in my 20s, I did it for like things like Halloween costumes. I just didn't have a machine, so I would hand sew or borrow somebody's machine. And then when I got married, I got a machine. Yeah, I think it was when I got married. Probably when I got, you know, when I was either pregnant with or just had my first kid. When it became too time consuming to hand sew or deal with other things anymore. But I was 29, I think, when I had my first kid. Yeah, 29. But I got, so there was like a good, you know, 10 or 11 years of no sewing machine. And when you're in your 20s, you don't really have time to knit or sew anyway, because you're either socializing or working. Like for me, so I don't work anymore. I stopped working with my son when I was pregnant with my son. I had hyperemesis and I could not work. I was really sick. I ended up 20 pounds less than my pre-pregnancy weight after at delivery. So, and it took me a long time to gain back even a little bit with nursing and everything. And then my son has medical issues, so then when he was born, there was no way that we could have afforded the type of daycare he would have needed and have me work. So then it was more like me filling time. I had lots of time, sit there, you know, do knitting while nursing, do sewing while they're napping, between other household chores and stuff. So this is how I'm not pulling my needle when I sew. I sort of shove all my fabric off to the one side, and then there's not really any tension on the side that I'm sewing. So I'm not pulling on anything. I'm not holding any tension against anything. I used to get crystals like end of roll, like the what do they call that? There's a name for that. Like the selvage at the end of the roll, where it's like got markings and stuff on it. And so I would make things out of that. And so I got a lot of really cool fabrics that I've only got like half a yard of in here. And when my daughter was little, it was really great because I could make everything for her with those little cuts. And then I learned how to like piece together things to make like pieced together shirts and stuff too. So I could make anything out of these like sort of strange cuts of fabric. So I have a lot of these little irregular amounts. I don't ever really have yardage. I have a lot of like partial yardage, or if it is yardage, it has some sort of a flaw. And it's great. I love it. Like, it was awesome to have that opportunity. Like, knowing somebody who designs their own fabric and being able to even get like cool, unusual prints was pretty neat. I very rarely had to buy anything unless it was something I really specifically wanted. Like, I would buy maybe the accent solid to go with a cool print or something like that, but you know, it definitely made it a lot easier. But yeah, I've made shirts, pajamas, dresses, doll clothes, sports bras, underwear. Making things for my husband is always a challenge because he's 6'6", so like making pajamas, even pajama pants for him, is like 3+ yards of fabric. Like, I remember making him a Halloween costume one year, and just the amount of cost just to buy enough fabric to cover his body was insane. So like having little kids and sewing for little kids is so much easier just because of the amount of fabric. It makes it so much, even if it's the same amount of work really to sew a small thing is a big thing, the fabric is such a hindrance. Anybody new joining us have any requests or any troubleshooting or any questions or any suggestions for next month? I'm just working on my little dual pocket diaper cover system here. There's the fitted insert and the little snake sleeve insert. And I'm just adding my elastic now. I was saying earlier on that you could even do this as a 1-layer pull cover just by adding a little extra at the back as well, and then just folding in all your edges. So if you added like a 1/2 inch all the way around and just notched in your casings a little more than that, you could then just have a totally elastic, no fold over elastic, just 1-layer pull cover. Especially if you're doing sized diaper covers, you could use pretty much any sized diaper template, add a little bit of excess on the outside, and make that into a cover with just 1 layer. I've done that for wool covers before. You have some nice wool interlock or something that works nice. But yes, what do people want to see sewn after cloth diaper month is over? What else should we make? If anybody has any food sensitivities and they want to do, talk about cooking or recipes with different ingredients, my son has a bunch of allergies, and I can pretty much modify any recipe. So if that's something that you have trouble with, or you're looking to, get rid of gluten or go vegan, or any odd allergies, like he's allergic to corn and pineapple and a bunch of other stuff. So if you've got anything that's about, we can do cooking stuff. We could just do general art stuff. Come spring, I'll be gardening a lot probably, but maybe not on camera. I do a lot of gardening. Okay. I have done garden tours on camera before, though, like with Facebook Live. And see how they line up? And I've got it bunched over to one side so I don't have to worry about the tension. Just even it out when it's relaxed. And then go that little bit further in so that it lines up on this side too. Is there something else that you've seen done in somebody else's tutorial and you need some more like detail about it, or a pattern you have that has something that doesn't work right for you and you want to figure out a way to modify it? I'm happy to figure that stuff out too. So now we've got all our elastics done. We've got the back elastic, we've got the side elastics. Now we're just going to top stitch. So Cubs win now. I was also saying how you don't need pull. So if you don't have pull, you could use 2 layers of a anti-pill fleece. And as long as you have enough absorbency, then you could use just 2 layers of that as your diaper and then put a, fold in soaker pad on the inside. So if you wanted to like fold up some sweatshirt fleece or some kitchen towels or something like that and then lay them inside, 2 layers of fleece sewn up to be more in the sort of diaper shape. You could take a pair of underwear and model that after that. You could, just add a little bit of extra on the sides and fold it over and make a casing. It doesn't need to be the pull, so if that's not something that's available, you can make it out of kind of anything. So there's the top stitching at the front. There's a little pocket there, nice and flat. And I've got my fold over elastic on this one, so it's folded in and then sewn. And now to do the back. And then we'll be done. So I'm folding this in first at the corner there. Cutting off my little thread from before. And I go slow when I get to that sort of end there because the fold over elastic's pretty thick. But if you're doing it without the fold over elastic, then it's not as challenging at that edge. And with the fleece in twos, you can wash the fleece, like as long as you wash it separately from the diapers, you can wash it with fabric softener and that will help to keep it waterproofed. But you don't want to ever wash your diapers with or whatever, towel or whatever absorbency you're using with the fleece because then it will also wick and not absorb well. So you don't want to use anything like fabric softener with diapers, but you can use it with covers. Not like pull covers, but fleece covers. So that's your full cover, just minus the Velcro. I like to do snap-on Velcro tabs for these just to keep it separate from the body, but you can also keep it on and then just, you know, when you go to the laundry, just pop off. So I'm going to put snaps on the side there, and then I'm going to make my tabs separately and have them snap on. But this then fits with your inserts. You just reach inside. You can even turn it inside out if you want. And just find your snaps in the corners, in the middle. And you can set up diapers ahead of time for like a babysitter or something like that. But then at home you could just use it as a cover because it's also just a plain old pull cover. So if you have a daycare that requires, you know, all-in-one diapers, they won't use covers and fitteds or covers and pre-folds, you could give them this and say it's an all-in-one diaper, because it is. And then it all just tucks in. You make sure that the edges are inside. And if you're adjusting the rise, you would adjust the rise separately in the inside and the outside. So you would first, you know, have your cover set, and then you would use the rise snaps on your inside and lower the rise. So say you're doing it at the smallest rise. It's easier to put it in already adjusted, but you could totally do it this way. So I fold it up into the front there, and it just kind of hides it all. And the same thing with the outside here. Then you've got everything sort of stowed away, and like kind of reaching up into the under the Velcro here to kind of tuck it. And the snaps for the fit in are out of the way, so they don't get in the way of that. So now you've got your nice small front. You can fold the back up into the back, or you can have it doubled in the middle. If you've got a girl who's heavy wetter, if they're napping, you put it at the back. You can do it however you want. And then you can put it on a much smaller size baby. So I would definitely say it's probably not a true like newborn size, but it's got pretty small leg holes. It's smaller than the flips, and it gets to be a little bit bigger than the flips, so it's a little more, but it's probably more like a small to large. It'd be definitely good for you know, that whole 3-month to toddler stage where like they can go away and have babysitters and whatnot, but it's not a newborn diaper. It'd be too bulky. And then for the little insert sleeve, you would just only use the 2 middle snaps at the back. So you put whatever absorbency you have, whether you want to fold up a towel or use a microfiber insert or whatever you want to do, and then you put it inside there, and then you just snap it into the middle snaps. And it can just fold up in there because it's, you know, it's all absorbent, so fold it wherever it fits best. There you go. Any questions before we end for today? I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a nice system. I say that I'd probably make, like if I was going to have it for a spare for something, or for like an outings diaper, I'd probably make 2 or 3 of the covers and then 3 of the fitted soakers for every, you know, for every cover. So like 3 to 1, and then you've got your insert sleeve. You can make a bunch of those if you have a bunch of inserts or things you want to use. So like, you know, it'd be a nice system to have kind of as a supplemental system. I definitely wouldn't use it as my primary thing. If you wanted to make, if you were making all flip style covers anyway, this is a great just little add-on. Just add a couple snaps to it and you can use it for both. So, I mean, it's made no differently than the flip style covers. So it is an option for that. But for the majority of my covers, I always just did the fold over elastic basic ones, and then a mix of that and the fleece, like longies, shorties, soakers. They were more useful for us for covers. Plus, it's a lot less work than making a flip style cover. And I'm lazy, so there's that. Anyway, happy sewing. Hope everybody has a good week. I'll be putting up more videos tonight and then tomorrow and the rest of the month. So